Morning, Benny. This morning we will be having Dr. Stephen here to cover the topic of global standards and best practices in construction health and safety.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I know that you guys have been through a series of programs. Yeah, and this is actually one of the subject, which is health and safety in construction. Okay. Now, we just introduce about me, and then we'll have a short, we call it, it's actually more like a brief, right? It's a short, still related to your question. Right? After that, we'll continue with the program. Yeah. So the topic will be global standards. Right? We talk about global standards and best practices. And all of you are not only from Malaysia, also from outside Malaysia. And in general, construction. If we talk about construction, I believe, right, the highest risk in terms of any projects or any manufacturing or even oil and gas, right? I think construction has very high, right? That's the reason we talk about the safety and health. And safety and health is actually for the worker, right? And of course, when we talk about safety and health, there is an impact on your business. Because why? When any injury, incident happen, right, it's going to stop work. When it stop work, it's going to delay your delivery of your projects. And not only that, and sometimes when any fatality happens, right, and it actually may go under the inspection and also investigation. And the more delay, the more impact on your right profit and also your business condition, right, and also reputation, right? Because when you say zero incident, zero accident for 365 days, or maybe more, that actually shows how good, how strong your safety and health. Yeah. Right. And my name, right, I'm Dr. Stephen Moore. I'm actually a practitioner for health and safety environment. Also, I'm a lead auditor for certification 9045 and integrated management system. And I've audited many different industries and done extensive consultancy and training past auditing. Yeah. I'm here to share my experience. Also, this training is not only my sharing, I also need your participation. Is that okay? Because when we talk about training, it's not one way, it is two way. Yeah, and when you go to certain area, I want you to participate also. And please also raise some questions you have, because this is where we can actually have good understanding and clarification, right, of any issue or any area for improvement. Yeah. And for the past 24 years, I've been doing consulting, training, and auditing. Prior to that, I've been, my background, I'm an engineer by profession, but I've been in a process engineer, product engineer, most of the time management engineer, right? Before I moved into quality and also reliability. Yeah, my last job as a, right, as a manufacturing, essentially as a manufacturing for quality and reliability. Okay. And for the past 24 years, I've been consulting and training for different industry, including construction. Yeah, number of clients here in Malaysia, right? And also we have some other projects in Kuwait, right? And also an audit travel, audit in Kuwait and Philippines, right? Also for the lead auditor, right? So certification body, I'm also one of the instructor training lead auditors, right? For certification body. And in Malaysia, for us to conduct training, right, we have to be called as trainer, including we have to be an accredited trainer. And then only we can actually be part of the human resource HRD available programs. Right? So I'm one of the trainer. And to qualify that, you need to have 124 hours of training here. Right? These are some other certificates, also including, right, as an integrated management system, quarterly auditor, and other, right, certification. And this will be this program, which is being ended as well. And this is the activities, right, input for you. You have, right, the importance of health and safety in construction, and then we go with the overview of the international requirement. One of the international requirement is, of course, ISO 45001, right? And I believe most all of you in your construction, are you certified for 45001? Yeah, because 45001 is for health and safety, 14001 is for environment, and without quality management system, actually the first thing, right, is the quality management system. 9001. 9001 is a basic system where we move into 14 and 45001. Yeah. And then also other standards, which is including, right, the OSH, right, which is in US or in Europe, or, right, and also ILO. And actually the ILO is actually mainly involved in terms of safety, in which we talk about, right, no child labor, young worker, right, in most construction industry, right, in, let's say, third world country, not in second world, right? So they always use child labor and also young work. We can see that in some movies, right? Which is they use the children to lay bricks, right? And also for construction. So ILO is actually present, is mainly to ensure that no child young work. Yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, and also safety of the worker. And then we move on with, yeah, detail. And then we'll have our short break. Then continue with our best practices, and we look into risk and risk assessment. Right? So in health and safety, the key, right, requirement is job safety analysis, right? And then move on with HIRAC. All right, HIRAC is one of the requirements. And when we talk about construction, actually we need to include R&D, your design, into your product. Since we talk about construction, how do you get into the construction? Start with the engineering, architecture, and then you go into the design and development. Then move on with your manufacturing, which is we talk about construction. Correct. So we need to also involve, right, the R&D into your actual manufacturing, or when we talk about construction in your, right, in your term construction, right? So what is R&D does? They actually prepare your skeleton, right, in which later you start your construction activity. Now, when we do your R&D, is there any feedback mechanism when construction runs? Any incident happen on the structure of your construction? Do you have any mechanism feedback to the lecturer or to the R&D? Do you have anything like that? Right? Do you have anything that we call as a failure mode effect analysis? Right? HIRAC is purely for, right, safety requirement. But when we talk about failure mode, it's actually when you receive a design and then you start to construct, and maybe due to the construction, during construction, some failure happened. Maybe the beam crack, or maybe the beam collapsed, for example. Do you record that into failure mode? Right? That is very important, because in my audit, I audit many clients, and they have HIRAC, but they don't have any failure mode. So what is failure mode? Failure mode means while they're doing their project, some incident happened. And that incident, they take corrective action, but they don't feed back to, right, to the original design team. So why? Next project, they're going to start the same way because they didn't get any feedback. Do you think that is a risk? Right? So we need to look into all this as a structural, which is as a benchmark for improvement, right? So that's where we look into the risk and also site, right? Safety planning and analysis, and then we move on with our, right? How do we make into effective planning? Yeah, and now roles and responsibility. Of course, you have your project manager, right? Supervisor, right? And then when we talk about, right, this construction industry, safety officer is very important, right? Where We may have safety coordinator in Malaysia. We talk about safety coordinator and safety officer. But the safety officer is a competent person. Oh, and also first aider. Is that important? Right? Because all these are part of legal requirement, which is under the Act and regulation. Yeah. And we look into emergency preparedness. Yeah. Emergency preparedness in your construction. On your construction. Right? What is the frequency of your emergency preparedness that you do at the site? Is it once a year? 6 months once? How frequent do you do? Do you work night shift? Sometimes continue work? Like you don't stop work. You have shift worker. Right? Morning they could work. Then continue with the second shift. They do continuously night work. You have like that. Right? So when you do your emergency preparedness, do you do only daytime or nighttime? Both? Yeah. How about the rest? Is it both? Daytime one and nighttime one. Do you do that? Yeah. Why do you think night is so important to do also emergency preparedness? Because the emergency will not happen only on daytime. Sometimes night happen, right? And during night it's actually pitch dark, right? We have enough lights, right, for them to come out from the building. It's important, right? And sometimes more injury happen because there's not enough lighting. Daytime brightness is good, but nighttime you might not have any lighting that may impact. Okay? So let's look into the program. And this is the quiz that you have, right? Did you receive this? Yeah, you have this, right? It's only 10 questions, right? Yeah. Is it a QR code?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there, right? You just have to scan it, and then you just answer it. 10 questions, right? You can finish within, I think, 7 minutes. Very fast. So what is the purpose of ISO 45001? Right? A, B, C, D, right? And then also, right? Which law actually applicable for safety? Let's say you are not from Malaysia, right? Which law is actually applicable? The third one, which is the leading safety indicator in terms of safety. All that are very easy, right? Oh, is it PDF? Oh, okay. All right. Maybe we can discuss it. Is it okay? Yeah? Is everyone okay with that? All right. Let's look into the first one. Yeah, first one. Right? So what is the purpose, right, of the 45,001? Is it for financial auditing, safety management, environment? Yeah. So 45,001 is for safety management system. 45,000 is for safety. 14,000 is for environment management system. All right. Now let's look at the second one. Right? If let's say we talk about any country, right? Let's say in Malaysia, right? Safety is actually managed by not the right CDM or 9,000 or right. It's actually by the OSH Act 1994. Now we have the latest current version. All right. So that is actually the second one. The third one. So which is the leading safety indicator for you? Is it lost time or number of fatalities, safety observation, or safety observation? Okay, let's look into that. So you can do your ABC first. Later we check the answer. Is that okay? All right. So you can do the answer. Then later we will check again the answer. All right. So how about the fourth one? Right. So for the let's say right in the UK projects, right, what contribute that incident? Is it because of no PPE, high turnover, target zero, or no supervision? Right. So you can write in your paper, right, your answer. Yeah. And what is right hazard identification and risk assessment in construction? Is it for the estimation of cost, health insurance, hazard identification, or inspection? That's very straightforward. Am I right? IRA is there. Yeah. Now let's look into the next. Which of the following right is a control method right for fall hazard? I think in construction industry, work at height is the most job that you do. Right? You have your right a lot of falling hazard. All right. So which one is that? Right. Okay. So now let's look into the seventh. Right. So what organizations enforce safety in, right? Let's say in workplace. So which one? If let's say Malaysia, of course, right? It's actually part of the OSUS or CIDB, essentially, right? And then next, which construction hazard is most associated with electrical incident? Yeah. And then what is the benefit of no blame culture? Again, incident reporting. We always have issue with what? We always push the problem to others, not us. Right? When we talk about safety, when you accept your mistake, then safety will never repeat again. Yeah, acceptance is important rather than we push away, right? Which is called, right? So important is no blame culture. And then what did the Petronas Rapid Project, right, achieve through BBS and also standardizing training? So what are? Right? So you've got your answer, right? Let's check the answer. Is that okay? So you got it? The first one is safety management system. Second one is sure. And then third is right the safety observation. Right? When we talk about any indicator, actually incident happen begins with near misses, right? So when there is a near miss, first thing is you need to watch. Because the near miss, number of near miss is a potential accident. Am I right? So near miss is very important, right? How do you report? And that's when we talk about safety observation. Right? And then we go into, right? So what is the reason? Right? The target was zero and also reporting system, right? That actually was the right the contribution for the safety culture. Yeah. And when we talk about HIRA, hazard identification and risk assessment. You're familiar with that. And now let's say you're doing project in Malaysia, for example, right? So there are guidelines, which is 5KKD, right? So it's actually require the contractor or the project, right, to issue IRAC and many other documents. It's actually part of the requirement. Yeah. And in safety, hazard identification is actually very important. Yeah. And next is, right? So which is the guardrail and pillars. Some of you have mentioned just now. Because fall protection is actually part of it. What is the organization enforce in terms of right Malaysian workplace? It's actually DOSH is the one that right doing. And of course, CIDB is also the construction industry, right? But DOSH is the one that takes leads. And which construction hazard is most associated with electrical? C is actually contact with light wires, right? And of course, for the electrical, I think you need to give a lot of training and awareness because any main power fell on the ground, right? There are radius in which the charge is still there. And if you let's say you carry one leg and put another leg, you will get shocked. Am I right? So the awareness must be given, and you can't see what is the distance and are we in that particular radius and so on. But we need to have a proper training and awareness. And next is right, see higher reporting and learning. So that is the right benefit of no blaming because when you educate all your right even worker right, so that means they will have an awareness of prevention right rather than just detection. Right? We know we have problem, but we want to eliminate the problem in the first place. Right? Elimination is important. And what did the Petronas Rapid project is actually also zero right fatalities, right, and strong audit score. So you regularly will have your daily inspection, monthly audit, and your meeting reporting, right? So how strong is the audit and how effective is the audit? Very important, you need to monitor. Yeah. All right. So how many of you got all correct? Yeah. Sorry, it was PDF. So you couldn't do the marking. All right. So that was the right? Now, so what will be the end of the day? What actually can you learn from this program? Understanding global and also Malaysian, right? Regulatory expectation in construction industry. Yeah. And for me, I've audited construction industry. I've done project construction industry in Malaysia. Yeah. Our clients, right? They are this bridge, right? Construction, also housing factories, also right, other industry construction company. Yeah, and we supported them in the area of their documentation writing, right? Preparing them for internal audit, preparing for the external audit, right? And also guide them how to do their operational control, especially, and IRAC as an identification risk assessment. And then move on with continuing. Yeah, based on that, let's look into that. I also learned from key international case studies, right? So, right? Whatever that incident happened. And even if you look into, I'm also one of the trainer for social compliance like RBA, right? Also, we have social compliance like SMITA and other auditing. And one of the requirement in the social compliance is also safety and health. And when we talk about safety and health, right, it's actually a lot of case study. And in fact, one of the first incident happened, it was in Bangladesh, Rana building, right? They actually collapsed. And actually there were signs of cracks, but the business owner said, move on. And finally, 1,000 over people died, and 2,000 over people badly injured. With the studies inside, right? I've shared that with you. Yeah, and you can Google it and you look into the Rana Plaza, right? You have it. That was the first incident in which that was a garment manufacturing factory, right? And that was not a factory for manufacturing; it's actually a shopping complex. They run for business, right? Which is a construction with, imagine 3,000 workers in that, right? Building and working, right? If let's say shopping complex, there will be at any time also maybe less than 700. But this one is, let's say, for 24 hours working and you have 3,000 people inside and standing and crack happen, do you think that will withstand? But that's the risk. Yeah. Also, look into strategy, right? Intervention to strengthen site level practices and also promote a proactive culture. Now, what is proactive culture? When worker, right? So first thing is, if let's say we want to have a proactive culture, we need to respect one another. Agree with me, right? Whether they are construction laborer or site supervisor or project manager. First thing is, when you give respect, you receive protection. Agree with me, right? Because sometimes they can actually do anything without you realizing, right? When you are so harsh, when you are not really, taking care of them, right? They may also cause some other issue later, right? First thing is, that's why ILO talks about what? Respect to all people, right? It doesn't matter what position they are, right? You need to give their due respect. So you are protected. Why? They know my boss is good, my staff is good, my supervisor is good. If I know there is a hazard there, I have to protect my boss from falling into the hazard. Agree with me? Yeah. If not, they will say, let him go. Right? If there's a hazard there, it's okay because he's not good to me, right? And it's not any useful to me, right? Do you think that is hazard? Right? We only talk about construction hazard. There is also a hazard for us, which is from man to man. So first thing is ILO, International Labour Organization, talks about what? Right? Respect to every human. Yeah. So let's understand. Interaction. So if you talk about construction, right? There's heavy movement of your trucks, your right, whatever that machinery that you have. And first thing is each and every machinery need to comply to legal requirement. I mean, subject to inspection. All right, subject for their PMT or we call it as their certification, right, and regular maintenance. Now, the operator who works, do you think they need to be qualified, right? And how do you ensure that they are qualified, right? Of course, they have the certificate, which we talk about their license too, right, to operate. But do you inspect before you hire them? Now, do you look into some background check? Is it important? right? Is there any incident happened due to this particular operator, right? And if let's say you hire and another incident happened, see, every time incident happens, it's actually impact your business. And as a construction company, reputation is important. Zero incident is important, all right? So you have to protect your company, right? In which construction is among the highest risk industry worldwide, right? And of course, it's really growing. And when we talk about construction in the past, it may take longer term to complete project. Now we have a lot of new technology, all right? Which lead time is actually reduced. But remember, whenever you reduce the lead time, right, you have to make sure the hazard is also there, right? So if let's say you reduce the lead time by continuing your project, but if let's say your cement, your concrete, and so on still not dry enough, you think that is risk, right? So you need to make sure that the strong bonding of your material is there, right? Material should be there, right? And second, accidents, right, result in lost life, of course, delay the project, and also legal action can happen depending on which country you are from. And that country, they have their own legal requirement, right? And the penalties, if let's say we talk about here in Malaysia for the learning, and the penalties are now everything is developed. So, all right, if let's say last time 500,000, now it becomes 150, right? So it's not worth of paying the compound or the fine. It's actually worth giving education to your worker, use that money. Is that correct? Provide them with the right PPE, right? When you're not issuing the right PPE, each violation for the PPE, you may find 8,000 ringgit, right? Each violation. So imagine 8,000 ringgit locally. And if let's say you have about 30 of them not wearing the proper safety shoe, which is approved by, let's say here, right? Approved by Bosch and Sirin, we call, all right? And each, right, will be 8,000. And if you have 30 workers, and all the 30 workers wearing a single approval, which is only the Sirin, I mean, 30 times 8,000, how much is the loss, right? That will be the fine. And do you think that is worth? Not worth. Might as well give them a right shoe, replace for them a right shoe. You save money for the project. And not only that, save time and no delay. Because once you are fine, right, subject for regular visit. When you have subject for regular visit and each time an inspection regular, you think your project can go smoothly? You'll have difficulties. Because why? While visiting, they will find other issue, right? Yeah. So, and especially when we talk about construction area, right? Make sure no any water retention. That is another issue, right? When you have water retention, what actually can come from the water? Can be rainwater, and what actually can come? Breeding, all right? Breeding of mosquitoes. Do you think that is also impact? Because most of the inspection, this is what the issue. Sometimes building is not ready yet, and there's a water retention on top. And then when the officer go and take some sample, there will be one or two. And they count each one you're going to pay so much. And not only that, it will be stop work again, right? So every time any violation, it actually impact your continuing of your project. Yeah. So it will impact your reputation, damage your reputation, right? A strong health and safety culture reduce risk, right? Improves work moral and also ensure business continuity. I believe that all of you, right, when in your project, first thing is you will do your induction training, am I right? And then after that, you'll also provide them with the PPE and so on. Remember, based on safety requirement, PPE is actually a last resort, am I right? So the first thing is what? Elimination. So what is elimination? Elimination means when you're buying a safety shoe, right? Buy the right shoe. Now, safety shoe actually has different type of safety shoe, which is if you're working in a cement area, slippery area, oil area, am I right? Different area, you have a different type of safety shoe, right? Get the right safety shoe so that you can prevent, right, any incident. Because we buy all the same type. They use the shoe at the different operation, right? And that shoe, which is we call safety shoe, may damage shorter time, right? Because of what? Contamination with oil. or with some other, right, particle. So get the right tools. So first thing is, if you want to have a culture, right? I mean, health and safety culture. First thing is the supervisor, the safety officer must comply to rules. Sometimes we enforce the worker to compliance, right, to rules, but the safety officer, he will wear normal shoe and he will ask the worker, where's your shoe? Am I right? So first thing is the culture begins from where? From the person in the construction. Right? When your worker look at you, how you handle, how you manage, how you perform is actually the way that they follow you. Yeah. So when you become a example, that's where the culture comes. Right? If let's say they are coming to work with safety shoe, then you can actually ask the worker, where's your shoe? All right. And if let's say he's wearing a sandal and go to the construction area and asking the worker, where's your shoe? What do you think? That is not a culture. So culture begins from where? From each one of your work, right? And also the management itself. And sometimes when top management come, when customer visit, or maybe a project, right, a main person who's visiting, do you think they also need to observe with some safety requirement? Right? I have seen sometimes they don't even provide them with whatever safety, they just walk them. Now, do you think that is culture? Culture means it doesn't matter who, right? Even if top person coming also, you must provide the right tools for them to be, right, an example to the worker there also. Yeah. Now, next is, right, the benefits. Of course, your construction project moves smooth. I mean, the benefits are greater. Example, you reduce injury and absenteeism. Worker is not on MC or worker had injury, they are not coming to work. When you have shortage of worker, do you think that impact again? Yeah, unless your construction is more on automation, right? Less human interaction, that is different. Yeah, but also anything that automation, you need to do a proper maintenance. It's not done by another man, right? So we need to make sure that they are competent and increase moral and also because worker knows that I'm working in the same place. I have my protection, right? And I can work well. Right? I don't have to worry about my safety. Come with both hand, go back with only one hand. What happened? Maybe an injury and maybe right, it actually caused high fatality. Yeah. And next is legal compliance and cost saving. As I mentioned earlier, if you fail to comply to any legal requirement, and especially country that you are right working or you are doing your project, please understand each and every country's legal requirement. Right? Maybe you need to attend some training over there itself, in that country itself, or the key person, maybe the safety officer who actually been qualified from that country, right? Need to educate others on the legal requirement, right? I go to Kuwait, I do some audit. And even before I can go there and do audit, I must attend their safety requirement, environmental regulation, right? If not, I cannot do an audit there, right? So the same way, when we are moving into any country for any requirement, first thing is we must equip with the requirement of the legal. So we need to register the legal list. See, we may have a book, right? But the book is too thick, not everything applicable for your industry. Agree with me? You need to tailor make that into your legal register. Yeah. Now, let's look into when we talk about right. There are some when we talk about what is construction, and all of you are construction expert, right? I don't have to right go in deeper. As I said, construction right is actually we talk about a process of it can be building, assembling, or even repairing. Right? Repairing means you do restructuring, maybe due to inspection failure. You need to do some rework, restructuring, and so on. Yeah, which is for infrastructure such as building, road, bridge, factories, and also others, right? Highways and others. Now, the characteristic is very important, right? It involves physical work, which is manual and mechanic, right? Mechanized work. Now, second, also requires resources. Now, you have the material, but do you think the labor is very important for you? The training on the labor is important. Which area that see, sometimes we hire foreign worker. We know they've been working in the construction industry, right? We assume they know what they are doing. They think that is risk, right? So do you provide again any induction training for the area that they are going to involve? See, construction job. It's not a single area. Like manufacturing, right? It's different. Construction is different because you have a number of different processes, right? And each and every processes need special skill. Agree with me? Right? So when you talk about skill, right? Yeah, in the past he had been plastering. Yes, he had been plastering. But as he knows the mixture of the plastering, right? Who prepared the mixture of plastering? Is it he mixed and he plastered, or someone mixed and he plastered? He is good in plastering. It doesn't mean he's good in mixing. Am I right? But what we do, we take granted. We say, he's been working. I think with that, fine. Right? After some time, the plastering cracks. Right? And then now what you have to do? You have to patch up work. Now, do you think lost time for you? Now, second, credibility. If let's say that happened after they moved in, do you think more difficult? Right? So let's say it's a factory that you build a factory, or maybe you build a highway. Am I right? And maybe there are some patchwork needed after that. We have our Penang Bridge. We have two bridges in Penang, right? We have one main bridge, which is actually about 9 kilometers, and the other bridge is about 21 kilometers. I mean, we have two bridges, right? And the old bridge, strong, no problem. But the second bridge actually undergone a lot of havoc. What happened? Maybe they want to speed up, they want to whatever, and there were a lot of patchwork. And cars are moving and they are still patchwork. Do you think that is good? Yeah, that's not good. Yeah. So why? Maybe, right, it's depending on the pace that they were doing. They trying to finish it fast, right? Maybe not enough worker or whatever. There can be many reasons. We do not know, right? That should be investigated and they have done the reporting. Am I right? But do you think while cars are running and your team still going and do some patchwork, you think that is reputation good? That's not good because that's impact your reputation. All right. And even I myself ask whenever I'm taking second bridge, right? Is it safe to go? Right? Because they're still doing some work that time. Right? And finally, still second bridge, best car compared to the first bridge. Right? Because first bridge is actually shorter length, even though we are taking the length, right, to the second bridge. First bridge, second bridge is too long, 21 kilometer, right? And wind, strong wind, right? If let's say a small car, maybe a little shaky. Yeah. So remember, so important is, right, you need to provide training material. You must get a good grade material because the project been reduced and maybe a lot of other expenses come, and then we try to minimize the quality of the material. You think that is risk, right? Cheaper material, right? Or maybe a second grade material that will actually impact your delivery, and also the machinery that you are using. Make sure each machinery has the approval, right, and safety requirement so that no incident, and the worker who actually operate the machine provide necessary training and they have the certification. And even in industry, when we talk about some manufacturing, they use a lot of forklift. Remember, a lot of forklift accident happen. Just imagine in a manufacturing, in a warehouse, forklift incident can happen. Do you think in construction, more bigger machinery, the risk is more higher? Yeah. So we have to provide, make sure that you have the worker who actually work in the machinery is actually competent, and also the time is actually one of the important. You've been given, let's say, a 2 years project, right? Time flies very fast. January started, now it's already April, right? So it's actually moved faster than we think. Yeah. And next is and governed right by engineering, architectural, and also safety standard. Now, when you do your project, right? When we talk about architectural, is safety team involved in your designing of your project? Do you think in R&D level, safety team involved or not? Any feedback on safety incident to the R&D and all? Right? So how do you feedback? Do you have any documentation? That's very important. As I've mentioned, you see, I've audited many clients, right? Most of them, they always show me high rank. Safety means high rank, am I right? But how about any incident? They said we are ISO certified and we use CAR, corrective action. Is that correct? Now, the corrective action is actually a basic, which is whenever you have an incident, you raise corrective action. How about now the new requirement in ISO 9001, we talk about what? Risk and opportunity, remember? The risk and opportunity can be part of your risk assessment, which is based on your project, issue, you can feed back to your R&D. You say, yes, you have given me this thickness of metal, but this actually causes incident, right? Can you look into and revise for the future or maybe for the current project? Is it important? So there should be a mechanism of feedback whenever any incident happens. Yeah. Now, includes various the planning, designing, procurement. So the design is actually one of the key area. Now, if let's say we want to have a good quality of product, actually the quality should be built in. All right. So when you don't have a built-in quality, you only have a process quality. Process means what? While doing the job, we will inspect. Right? That is actually a process quality. So the built-in quality is actually comes from where? From the R&D. Next, from the worker who actually mixing the cement, concrete, and others. Right? I mean, each one should start with the quality, built-in quality, rather than right inspecting quality, right? And other process until the finishing, and also can be residential, commercial, industrial, or right infrastructure based, right? And the common type is right. These are the common type, which is for residential needs, for apartments and others, right? And others, yeah. So these are some. And now we move into project now. So you have your construction, we move into project. When we talk about project, the definition is right. A project is a temporary right endeavor which is undertaken right, which is a unique product, or it can be right result at the end what actually you are expecting, and define the objective timelines and so on. Now the characteristic is that it should start and end, because any project is always start and end. Today training, start at 9, the end will be 12. Is that correct? So any project that is starting and ending, right? And if let's say the ending is delayed, that means that it impacts you. If the ending is on time, maybe that actually give you good completion of success rate. Plus, you actually don't have any loss. And after you complete the project, you still give warranty. Remember, during that warranty, if there is no any incident, right, or no any other cracks broken or whatever, you are not going to send your worker to additional job. I mean, you save time, you save your cost, you save your profit. Yeah. Now, so next is right. For any project, sure, you will define your scope and deliverables. Yeah. And also manage through, right? So management, which is the scope, time, quality, and so on, and requires coordination across. See, when we talk about project, it's not that your company take the project and you use your worker to run the project. Agree with me? You're always outsourcing to many contractors. Now, how do you qualify the contractors? Right? Based on what? Do you have any criteria? Right? That is what we talk about standards. Right? So what is my qualification criteria? Is it because that construction company is my good friend, the giving project, or based on what criteria? So you need to have set some criteria. That's where all the ISO standard works. I mean, do you have any qualification of external provider, which is your outsourced company? What is the qualification criteria? How do you qualify and how do you make right your project success? And require coordination of more than one. Now, risk and also stakeholder right management are critical, because why? You have outsourced the job to another construction company, and let's say they have issues with their manpower, they will delay again, right? And that time you're going to take another new contractor and you need to retrain again safety and other, right? So the best thing is qualify with the right at the first, so that you don't have to repeat again. Yeah. So the resources and so on is important. And construction projects, right? A construction project is a type of project focused on infrastructure, building or whatever, right? And you are and the building, example, if let's say you want to build a hospital or build a highway or whatever, right? So the planning, budgeting, right? The contracting, and also which is your outsourcing, the execution, and also handover is actually crucial for you. Within how long you want to complete, how you want to complete. Do you have enough? Right? And sometimes, right, most of the right project now, right, even I'm doing a project in now, right, which is not a construction project, right? I'm doing a consultancy and training projects, right? And most of the right the equipment all are coming in from China, right? I mean, all the machinery equipment all are from China, and it's actually run in the project. Now, important is all the machinery must have a approval. Is it important? Right? And must have a proper maintenance. Now, especially if you are bringing from another country to another country, right, for the project, make sure that we understand the local requirement for the inspection, right, and for the certification. That's very important. Now, workers, we also bring maybe sometimes, let's say we have a project in, let's say in Dubai, right? We're going to go there and we bring workers from Malaysia and go there, for example, right? So if let's say they are higher level officers and so on, they need to understand local requirement of the safety, right? Because if let's say here, right, you're a safety officer, it doesn't mean you're qualified in Middle East, right? Because as I go for my audit, right, and they always ask me, do you have any safety officer that can recommend me? I need some safety officer for our oil and gas and other industry, right? But their requirement is a little bit different, which is here we use NIOSH, all right? Now, there they use NEBOSH. So they want different qualifications. So when we talk about different qualification, right, that means we are not qualified to work under the requirement over there, right? So this is where we need to understand the qualification of each and every country that you are doing your project. Yeah. All right. Now, these are some right breakdown which you can see that. So when we talk about the health and safety, right, the type of project that actually we can talk here is it can be residential, commercial, and so on. Of course, right, when we talk about residential, the focus will be living space and so on. These are you're familiar with this. I just give some guide only, right? But important is right when we talk about any of this project, let's say, right, let's say it's an infrastructure, highway, right, the bridges or tunnel. Now there will be a heavy civil work compared to residential or other. Now, each of you as a construction right company, your scope is different. You can be a highway builder. You can be a construction for this industry. Am I right? So your scope is actually very important. The scope will determine right which area that you are expert, and on that area you need to make sure that your key features for health and safety should be right equipped well. Yeah. So, like for example, if let's say in Malaysia now, many of them they are going into Eco Park, right? Singapore and many other, they're going into Eco Park. Now, the design should focus different. Here is sustainable design. If let's say we talk about highway, the design can be different. So the design is actually based on what actually the output that you're looking into, right? And when you're planning for that, the safety aspect need to be considered in the first place. Yeah. Now, also, if you look into the specific example, right? Bridges and construction, right? Structural link over water and also land for transport involved, right? Which is the civil structure and other. Now, when we build some project, let's say it's a hill project, right? And we have earlier, right, incident in Malaysia, right, which is the high tower is actually collapsed. Remember, some time ago, right? And what happened? They were actually the water retention, right? That actually caused the whole thing collapse. That's many years back, right? So now we start the project and we give them the warranty. How long is the warranty? Normally in your project, how long is your warranty for the projects? 1 year. All right. But the water retention damage will come after maybe 15 to 20 years. Okay. Exactly. That's important. Am I right? So that means we call lifetime. Am I right? So the warranty is for the repair work. Is that correct? Which is for the 1 year. Yeah, correct. But you may give, like let's say, for example, right? Now in Malaysia, solar is actually become popular. All right. And I fix solar in my home also. Right? Of course, energy efficiency. And I'm just paying now only 10% of the electricity. Is it good? Now, important is return on investment. Good, right? We fixed. And what is the warranty they give you? They give you 15 years. What is my return on investment? I can get my return on investment within 4 years. That means I still have another 11 years that I can enjoy the benefit. Is it correct? While enjoying, maybe I need to save for after 15 years to build another solar. And the planning is so important. Similarly, when we talk about your construction, say you give warranty. Am I right? So if let's say the big incident happened after 15 years, will you take liability or no? This is the question that I'm raising. Am I right? Because if let's say the building, the construction, all was good, but there are some error happened. And due to that error, right, incident happened. Even though after the 15 years or 20 years that you give a full warranty, right? Do you think you are still responsible? No more. You're not responsible anymore. Okay, that's good. The reason that I'm asking that because what? Now, when you hand over, right? What is your contract say is very important. Because if the contract is not clear, it comes back to you, right? The contract, when you hand over, maybe you have to provide them with proper guideline. Right? So this is where we foresee. This is what can happen. Now, where do we get all this information? It's based on your benchmark. Some other project, some other incident happened. See, as a project team, you need to look into what happened to other projects. What can you learn from other projects? And how can we improve our project so that I will have a better control? Now, in current project, plus in future, liability, right? Many liability happen when, right, our contract is not needed, right? Yes, I give you 15 years warranty. After 15 years warranty, please maintain this. Do you provide that? It's very important. If you don't provide, they come back to you again because they will ask when you hand over, why didn't give a proper instruction, right? So, of course, it's a hill, right? A construction, and there will be some retention. Where the water retention do you think can come from? Am I right? And how you can avoid this water retention from making an impact to the building. Is it important? So remember, take this into consideration, right? Number one, right? You need to make sure that if let's say you are a construction specialist for highway building, right? Look into is there any other highway builders has any issue with their construction based on maybe the legal issue or some other incident. Now, that is what we call benchmarking. Benchmarking from other incident, which is not related to your construction, but your competitor. Agree with me? Your competitor's issues. You need to learn, right? Get that into, and you need to improve. So these are some of the examples, which is you can see that highway construction or housing or even factory setup, right? Malaysia now we have a lot of factory setups. So when factory setup, right, the factory can be ready in a short time, it can be in a long time, but it is still depending on the warranty that you give, right? The safety that you build in the right in the construction plus the worker itself, right? It can be a tunnel, it can be any right other port or jetty or whatever. So the description is this, and let's look into right health and safety, which is we talk about the right relationship between the construction and project. I think based on the input that I've given, now you have a right good overview, right? Which is now a discipline focus, right? When we talk about the construction, right, the focus is on building. When we talk about the project, of course, managing the task. Am I right? So I've given the blueprint. I provide the structure, how we should go about. Now, you need to now get in what are the machinery equipment because the design never give you what machinery you need to bring in, right? So that means the resources that bring in next level of task is very important, right? For how many stories of building, right? What are the machinery that I need to bring? In the local requirement, what are the approval that I need to get, right? All that need to be, right, planned well, yeah? And let's say we talk about the construction work, which is one phase in a project. Now, but when we talk about project, there should be a planning, right? And then go into budgeting, execution. And then if let's say once you execute, then you have other rework and other activity. Actually, the project is actually more tedious compared to the, right? The title we talk about construction. All right. So these are some, right? Some relationship between. Now, results, right? Which is construction is actually an infrastructure. And when we talk about right, your project is actually the results of your deliverable, right? Means after my project hit, right? So how many of the project success on time and plus, right? Incident free, right? And how much the user satisfaction. Is that important, right? When we do the construction, right? Even I go for some of my audit, and the building is just new, and they are coming back and breaking the toilet again. The water is not moving. The toilet is leaking. Am I right? So this is where we talk about construction. Now, your project is done, but now you have to send back again to break again the toilet, washroom, and so on and so on. Do you think people are working? The staffs are working. Now they can't use the toilet. Do you think that's impact? Right? Let's say there is an inspection now coming. Do you think that will be an impact? Right? And fire safety requirement. Right? Now, when we talk about building fire safety, is it you comply to your guideline or you comply to the local requirement guideline? Right? Like here, we actually talk about the fire department. Am I right? The fire department have a requirement which is under the act and regulation. Now, in every country, right? I think some of you from different country, right? Like Dubai and others, right? So you need to make sure that you comply to the local people, right? So because we are moving from our country and work in another country, right? Familiarity of that particular local legal requirements, right? To avoid any other issues in terms of legal violation, right? Which is the construction is by the contractors, and of course it's managed by. Now, when we talk about consultant, right, by the project manager, now you outsource your project to another contractor, right? Maybe electrical contractor, right? Maybe piping contractor. You have different contractor. Now, what is the competency of each contractor, right? And they're using a lot of foreign worker. Really? Now, each foreign worker, right? Are they with a proper document? Is it important? Right? Do you think without proper document that would be an issue? Right? Let's say raided by a authority and they found number of them without proper document. What will happen? No document. What will happen to the worker who without document? Right? They will take them to either immigration or maybe to detention, right? And then now you have less worker, right? So each time when you have worker reporting work, make sure the document is properly, right? And do you think there can be some fake document, right? How do you ensure the fake documents are properly checked? You need to train, you need to educate, right? Right, that is actually very important. Now let's look into the importance of health and safety construction, right? And also overview on the global, which is the standards and so on. If you look into here, right, the construction industry is one of the similar as I mentioned, right? High hazard or hazard prone, right? Sector, right? Globally and right, which is you can also look into, right? Always you have a lot of disruption when you go into your project, right? So, right, your disappropriation number of workplace injury. Now, of course, first thing is when you start project, the contractor, right, before you take over any of the small project of your big projects, right? Do you have any requirement which is you collect from their past experience? Do you check their background, check their experience, and is there any incident happen? Do you do that? Do you document that? Right? Is that in your criteria? Remember, why am I saying criteria? Right? That means your SOPs. Remember, standard operating procedure. Right? When we talk about selection of any contractor, you may have a standard operating procedure. What your standard operating procedure say? Is there a criteria fulfilled? If let's say you found some of the criteria not fulfilled, what do you think? What will you do? What will you do? I don't have any other contractor that I can do the project, but I only have this guy, but this guy not complying to certain area. What will you do? Yes, yeah, yes. Very good. Okay. Yeah. So whatever that you are outsourcing, if let's say competency is incomplete, they don't have the sufficient competency. Am I right? You may take the accountability because remember, whether the contractor is actually doing the right or any mistake, the accountability come back to you, right? Now, you need to provide sufficient training, right? Educate them, train them, or you need to provide sufficient other support resources. Am I right? From your own team. Because why? When we say that I have given to you the project, right? Now you are the accountability. Finally, you are the main one, right? The issue come back to you again. How do you ensure that you are protected and your project is secure? Yeah. Also, right, implementing strong health and safety system is essential. Not only legal issue, right, legal compliance, but also your deliverable, your cost saving, impact in terms of rework and incident injuries, insurance. Remember that? You see, when your construction has high incident rates, do you think your insurance is higher? Right? Because what you need to insure your project. When you insure your project, there's also going to be a cost for incident. Is that correct? And that cost is actually higher. When you're taking next project, you're going to pay higher costs again. Right? So it actually impacts your profitability. Right? And second, right, maybe the insurance company said too high fatality, I'm not going to insure you anymore. You need to look for another insurance company. That means you start all over new. You think that impact you? Right? Remember, all these are part of the project that you need to look into, and cost reduction, and also, of course, the workers' moral. Right? You can actually increase, right, in terms of that. And we talk about the fatalities and incidents. These are some of the statistical, right, which is right operational, right, fatalities, which is more than all, approximately 2.8 million in a year. This is actually reported by right, International Labour Organization. Right, that's the statistics. And construction itself, 20 to 25% of total work-related incidents. So that means it's about right 20 to 25%, and also related to that. And there is some reported, some not reported. Right? It's only a reported only 20 to 25%. There are some not reported. Because why? The worker no document. When the worker no document, the reporting may not be there. You think that is risk? Yeah. So this is where we talk about some statistic and injury, right? And even if let's say we look into the construction itself, right? 3.4 cases per 100 workers. Just imagine. Every 100 worker, you may have 4 workers injured. Right? These are the statistics, which is right, and also fall right from height or struck by or caught. Right? Actually 60% for fatal injury. So these are statistics. It's not that I give a number. This is actually a statistic for them. Yeah, 60%. Now, I mean, the high issue is falling hazard. Right? It's high. Why? Most of them working in a high. Am I right? Either fixing the roofing, or maybe even I can see some documentary from China. Right? They are working on the cables. Remember? So they are eating their lunch and sleeping in the cable itself. Have you seen that? Right? You see, just imagine. And what actually protecting them is only the harness. Am I right? If anything happens, they will still hang there. Right? You think risk? Yeah. So this, but no choice. That's the job. Am I right? But they are skilled in that. That is important. If they are not skilled, you think they can work on it, on the high, right? On the high cable, right? And then they're fixing the cable, and then using their hand skill to do their job. And then also sitting there and eating and continuing their job. Do you think risk is high? Yeah. So this is where we talk about the right falling hazard. Now, financial and operational impact, right, of poor safety. Remember, it's not about the construction completeness. Actually, it's about the safety. At the end, someone will use your building. All right. So when they use the building, do you think it is impact when it's say when someone use it, they reported and say that it's cracked. Reported to say that it's falling. Am I right? So this is where we talk about safety. One is the worker safety. Later, when you hand over safety of the completion of the project, you need to look into, which is right lost time injury, right? Average, right? And also the impact on construction. So which is 40,000 to 60,000 USD, or the fatalities actually in terms of paying back the insurance and insurance costs and so on. It's about, let's say, 1 million. And also, right, productivity loss is about 30% due to rework. Now, rework and absenteeism, nothing to do with your quality. Is that correct? But when rework is quality, absenteeism, maybe the workers' satisfaction on the safety of your aspect. Yeah, so that's need to look into. And if you look into here, right, the impact, which is delay in project. If let's say the delay is 1 to 2 weeks, do you think it's a big impact? Is it a common? Normally you will have a delay, right? How many percent of the project delayed? How many percent is on time? You see, that will determine your next project. Am I right? So if let's say you have a good track record of completion on time, or maybe before the time, am I right? So that actually a track record, right? If let's say any delay, then also a record, which is maybe an impact for the next project. Yeah, so that's you need to look into. And next is right, lead the project, right, shut down, and also investigation and so legal, right, sanction. So which is the impact will be because of your incident, right? Maybe stop work being given. The stop work may take 1 week. So the stop work is actually impact your next delivery. Yeah, you need to make sure that not happening, and unsafe environmental, right, lead to fear, absenteeism, and also turnover, right? Because it's raining. I think we can see now a lot of incidents, right? Suddenly things are collapsing, right? And they are working, and the worker still was in the building, right? Remember the, I think, earthquake in Myanmar, right? And the impact was in Bangkok, right? The whole building collapsed. Do you think that was actually workers are still working? Right? They are still inside. And some workers are still moving in, and the thing is collapsed. And those who run to the video, remember? So do you think that is actually impact big? Now there will be an investigation, right? They will be looking into what happened, why that happened, and how many people. They still couldn't give how many people actually left. Yeah. So this is where we talk about the incidences, and it may impact, right? Facilities, also the loss and other, right, impact. Now, legal, right, and compliance, right, pressure. So when we look into this, right, let's say locally, right, non-compliance, right, penalty, fine up to 500,000 ringgit, right? So next is, it can be imprisonment 2 years for serious breaches. Imprisonment. Normally, who will be imprisoned? This is the question. Am I right? So we always say safety officer. We always say the project owner. Is it correct? So it's depending. That's why sometimes the owner of the project, they appoint a competent safety officer. They say, now you are the accountable person. But remember, the safety officer may not be an accountable person unless the safety officer have given whatever the issue to the project manager, and the project manager not executing. Remember that. So the imprisonment is not the safety officer, but it can be the project manager who, right, deny the action. You get my meaning here? Right? It's not the safety officer. Safety officer is accountable, but the safety officer already provide feedback. The project manager say, no, we still have to move on. We cannot get this. We cannot done this. Do you think now, when we talk about 500,000, it's actually the company have to pay fine plus the 2 years of imprisonment, depending on after investigation, who was the right position, which position actually impact that particular. That's very important. So it's not the safety officer alone. It's not the project manager alone. Sometimes it can be the owner of the project. Is that correct? So that's where, when we talk about this area, a bit gray, right? The gray area is 2 years, right, for serious, right, violations or breaches, right? And also the project can be, right, blacklisting, right, and also revoke the license. We think when the project is actually been revoked, right, or license revoked, do the impact is bigger? Now we have to look into another country for another project. The impact bigger, right? Maybe other project also can be stopped. This is where, this is an example here. How about your experience? How about your experience in the country that you are working? Is there anything like that? Can anyone? Anyone? Right? How about your requirement in your country? Let's say, how about from Middle East? Right? Is there anything like that? Oh, okay. All right. Any legal requirement like this? This is Malaysian legal requirement. How about any other country? How about in China? How about in other country? Right? In India or other place? Anyone? there are no such classes. But yes, as I have mentioned, including the couple of years, that is practice. It's actually something that is not a responsibility that the company takes. So it's mostly on the project officer or project manager. But despite of several putting, this is actually not practice. So it is really a serious issue where it is implement. I mean, it has to be implemented, but no one is. When the country has legal, right? So remember, the legal requirement is actually only right? Like let's say last year I went to Cambodia, right? To conduct lead auditor program for the auditors, certification body auditors, and they audit the industry, right? And Cambodia, right? They also don't have much regulation. The reason is, right? When I was talking to some of the key participants and some authority, I think Cameroon actually have killed all the young. I mean, grow, right? Whoever that now they have, all are those who left the country. Now they are coming back to build the country. Do you think that is good? Yeah, they're coming back. So if that's the case, they don't have any legal requirement. Now only they are building. When I was there, I was sharing what we have. And they said, we don't have all this. So when the country don't have that, right, maybe the project, right, maybe may escape, correct? The project owner may escape any of this issue. But remember, most of the country now have legal requirement. Whenever you move to any country for any project, you have to make sure that you understand the non-compliance, what is the impact, right? So here, fine is one thing, but also the imprisonment is another, right? It may take time to, right, to impose, but still, right? Third one is important. I mean, the blacklisting means, right, your company cannot do any more project in the country anymore, right? Unless, right, you are changing the name. Is it correct? But remember, there is a traceability. If you're changing the name and the same owner is now with different name, do you think they can trace back? Right? The traceability is still there. They'll always look into that. Previously, what was the company name? Why now the new company? Am I right? So there will be, but still, you may move on with your project. But remember, action needs to be taken to avoid in the future repeated. Yeah, that's very important. Yeah. Now, of course, benefit is bigger, right? When we talk about construction, of course, construction is continued, right? And the benefit, right? If let's say the area like injury rates, now if let's say you can improve in health and safety, right, 60 to 80% within 12 months, right, can be reduced. How? How do you think we can reduce the impact, right, on health and safety in construction? So what will be the steps that we need to take? First thing is, right, when we get a project, what we have to do? First thing is, we need to make sure that we get a competent construction, right, support team. Is that correct? The construction that you're going to hand over to another subcon, remember? So make sure they are competent. Number two, what else? They have enough resources. Yeah, maybe they also need to get some equipment in. Are they having their own equipment? Are they also getting equipment from some other? Right? What is the equipment that they are bringing in? What is the competency of the operator of the equipment? All this need to be ordered. Yeah, and right. Next is right workers' moral. Now will be up. Now I'm working in a safe construction. I'm coming with a two hand, two leg. I'm going back with also two hand, two leg. Important. I'm going back safely. That's what the confidence level that you have for the worker. Yeah, that increased moral, which is 45% in terms of right moral. Now insurance premium, you have a track record of no incident, right? No payment of insurance, and everyone is healthy and work well, right? Do you think that actually reduce your insurance costs? Yeah, insurance costs can be reduced because with your track records, insurance costs, you're paying millions for insurance, right? So worldwide project, for example, that insurance costs can be reduced, right? By 20 to 30% reduction over the time. Yes, it can be, right? So, like for example, I'll give you a simple example, right? All of you got a car, right? You buy a car, right? You take insurance, is it correct? The first year when you take insurance, no any, right, rebate, is it correct? But after year, right, and you get maximum of 55%, is it correct? Like here, right, when we buy insurance for our car, right, no accident, free accident for the period of the car that you buy and you're driving, and your insurance premium reduced up to 55%. Yeah. So if let's say the car insurance is 10,000, right, you're going to pay only 4,500 because the other 5,500 is already we call NCB. Is it correct? NCB means you got your reduction of 45%. If let's say the insurance works in a way where no accident, you get rebate, rebate, rebate. Do you think construction don't have that? Have, we have. You must know your rights. All right? So because you've been running project, there is no major incident, no issue. We never claim any. Are you going to charge me more again and again? That's where one of the bargaining power. The bargaining power is incident free. Right? Now I'm paying so much of premium. Can you give me? Right? Like a car. Right? Insurance. You got NCB 45, 55%. All right? Similarly, it actually, right? Which is you can see reduction 20 to 30%. Just imagine if let's say your project is let's say 5 million, you're paying insurance alone for 5 million, and you get 20 to 30% reduction in insurance premium. Is it a big amount? Yeah, let's say 5 million, 20 to 30% reduction in premium. Is it a big amount? Now, what do you think you can do with a big amount? See, when insurance is actually rebate for you, that money is actually for what purpose? Tell me. What is the purpose of 20 to 30% reduction in insurance? What is the purpose? Exactly. You see, this is what we talk about the utilization. Now, most of the company going for 14,000 in one, and they reduce the use of paper. Am I right? They reduce the right. They use the 3R: recycle, reduce, and reuse. Am I right? And they also buy maybe the right material to avoid. And also sometimes even in construction, you have some material which is expired material. You have right. Sometimes you buy in a bulk. Remember? When you buy material in bulk, do you think every material got expiry date? Right? When bulk material expiry date, and that expired material, can you dispose wherever you like? What you have to do? You have to put under schedule waste. Schedule waste means essentially you have to properly right dispose using some authority. Am I right? Wait, do you think when you buy a material and the material now expires, now you need to dispose it, you have to pay for it? Pay for the disposal. Disposal means not take this and go down in a river. Am I right? You have to dispose in a proper disposal method. And for that also you have to pay. This is what we call schedule waste. Am I right? Do you think that is also indirectly impacting your construction profit? See, because, right, if let's say you ask a contractor to dispose for you, and that contractor didn't dispose in a proper way, right, and he got caught, right, in where he disposed in a non-safe way, right, and that action will be traced back to your construction. And now the authority will get back to you and say, how do you dispose your expired material? That also will cause into violation earlier. Right? Right? If you look into in our country, right, manufacturing have a lot of schedule waste and so on. And there are incidents happened years back, right? Maybe I think 1.5 years ago, they disposed the chemical where at the river in Johor. Right? And that actually caused school students, right, have some impact on their health. And they investigate and they found the disposal done by who? And they trace back to the company that actually give them the job to dispose, and all of them get into fine and also impact. Because why? When your contractor doing a mistake, it actually traces back to you. Remember, traceability. It actually come back, right? Okay, what we can do, let's have a 15-minute break. Is it okay? So it's 10:15, 10:20 now, right? That has a short break, 15 minutes. I think there's some tea and so on. We'll come back within right? 15 minutes, and we will continue. Is that okay? Yeah? Correct. You can look into the benefits. Actually, the benefits are 25% more likely meets your schedule. Why? Because, right? So when you have injury rate reduced, that means your working, right, time is actually improved. That means no downtime. Yeah. Second, also, when we talk about workers' moral is important. As I mentioned earlier this morning, all right? So when we give respect even to the construction worker who's actually can be foreigner, right, working as a construction worker, right? Do you think that helps? Because if there is an issue, that person will update you. He will not hide under the carpet. Agree with me? You know there is a problem. And every time there's a problem, I feedback to my supervisor or to my project supervisor or manager, right? They always scold me, but not taking heed. And what will happen? They will hide and they will never let you know. When the project is completed, and incident will surface. So the best way is, right, treat them as your right worker, but as with dignity, right? Respect them. See them in the morning. Tell them good morning. How are you today? No harm in saying good morning. Am I right? When you say good morning, do you think they are very happy with you? Right? Because the happy person will always want to do good, right? The unhappy person, right, always want to do something bad. Because why? Right? So he always not fair with me, right? I want to do something. This is what can happen. Okay. So there are more benefits, of course, legal, right? Non-compliance, as I've said, right? See, in your construction industry, right, whenever you buy any material, right, I can say every material there is an expiry date. If human have an expiry date, you think material don't have an expiry date? Every material is actually mixed with substances, right? When one substance mixed with another substance, that is the beginning of expiry. Am I right? Because there is no one substance. With only the substance you get material. Am I right? The substance must go with another substance. Like for example, water, right? So you're getting water. Do you think the water is just a pure water? No, it mixed with some chlorine. Correct? It mixed with some other substances. At the end only, it become a drinking water, or we call it as a sterile water. Right? Now, most of the industry or even construction, you also confine with ESG. Remember? Environment, social, and governance. Right? So when we talk about environment in your project, before you start your project, do you need to do any EIA? Am I right? Environmental impact assessment. What is the reason we talk about environmental impact assessment? The reason is, right, we want to see within that 5-10 kilometer radius, right, is there any well? Is there any school? Is there any, right, habitats? Am I right? So there will be a lot of this animals. Am I right? Trees, right? Along the project, you need to cut some of this, right? Do you think there's some impact? And sometimes there can be some original, we call what? The original people, right? Indigenous people. Is that correct? Those who are, they are the original people. Like in Malaysia, we call orang asli, they call. Orang asli mean they are the original people, right? And they are staying where? In the jungle, not in the cities, am I right? And now you are, right, making some project at the jungle, and we need to relocate them. Is that correct? Do you think when you relocate them, is there an impact? Right? So there is an impact because they never been to work, they never go to school, they don't have any education background. When they are in city, what can they do? Tell me. Because they don't have any knowledge, right? Do you think there is an impact? That's where the EIA come in, environmental impact assessment. One, we call environmental impact assessment during your initial project. Also to look into, is there any safety hazards? So the safety hazard is for whom? For the villages. All right, when you do project, right, your project may impact their, right, their livestock, right, their maybe a well, which is water. Am I right? Maybe any of the dust flying from your construction may mix with some other, right, chemical, and it may impact their, right, their vegetation, right, possible. And how do you protect yourself, right? I was talking, right, and your testing is important. You see, sometimes when you do some testing, third-party testing is not cheap. All right, I'm going to share your screen. Yeah. Session, I want you also to share your experience. It's very important.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Yes, well, I was since last 7 years, I'm not working on the project side. Yes, when we are working on the project side, we do third-party site investigation and test and voice test, which can make impacts on the farmers' cultivated lands, arable lands, and we do that twice in a month by the third party to ensure the compliance of the results of the tests. And we faced some issues, and those test reports were very helpful for us. Like one farmer who was cultivating the oranges near to the project site has sued us in the court that due to a lot of dust on the waterway construction, my production has been decreased. And because the production has been decreased, I have got I have received financial losses. We went to the court. I was dealing with the matter. So I presented the reports of the test for past 2 years, which we were conducting by a third party. And I have informed to the judge that, see, these test reports are under the compliance. Once it is under the compliance of the environment law, we are not liable to pay the compensation. We won the case, and because if we start paying to the farmers on an ethical or moral grounds, then we have a huge the length of the project, like it's 30-40 kilometers length of the project. There will be many farmers will coming and asking us for the compensation, and we won that case, and we have never paid any compensation to any farmer because we were conducting the third party tests, and due to on the behalf of those reports, we won the cases.
Yeah, right. As I said, so when you start a project, you need to look into, is there any other third party, right? Especially let's say we talk about cement, right? And then you do your concrete, right? Preparation, right? Do you think any particle of the cement will fly, right? Go to the next, right? Neighboring, right? And how do you prevent that, right? Or how do you prove that not that material caused that impact, right? And everything is cost. So if you have your evidence, say that you've done your EIA, environmental impact assessment. Am I right? Based on the assessment, you said you need to do this kind of testing, right? And if you compromise to one, right, I mean that one compromised win case will be used by the rest of the farmer, right, to ask you for compensation until the end of the project. I think that is impact you. Now, second, also that compromise is not that your fault, but still the news will be you have right agreed to the compensation. That actually says that you are actually don't want to go further and maybe explain your testing. Am I right? And you are accepting. See, sometimes we need to make sure that we have enough evidence to protect your business, right? And you need to inform your management and say, I need to do this testing, no choice. This cost is far better rather than I don't have any evidence to protect our right performance. It's important. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So, and also remember, every project manager, every supervisor, project supervisor, right? And everyone in the project, my recommendation will be they must be trained on safety. That's very important. You see, most of them, they know how to run project. They know how to handle worker, am I right? But they are not familiar with safety. They know how to speed up the project, but they are not really familiar about safety. So how you will ensure that if, let's say, a person who actually run the operation is a quality background person, I mean, he will focus on quality rather than just the. Am I right? But if you ask a production person to run the production activity without the quality background, he always think about delivery, not about the quality. So same, if we want to improve our safety, everyone in the project side, right, including the worker and also those who manage the project, they must be trained as a maybe, like here we call safety coordinator. So what is safety coordinator? Safety coordinator course is essentially a short course, not like a safety officer program. Safety officer may take about 23 days of program, which is you have to attend 23 man days. But safety coordinator course is only about 2 days to 3 days, right? So if let's say the project team, right, being trained as a safety coordinator, do you think that person will manage the project well in safety? As I said, safety can save you from a lot of issues like legal violation. 2, incident. Am I right? 3, rework and also delay in your project. And all this cost is far, far bigger than send this guy for the safety coordinator. All right? How much is the cost? Always remember return on investment. Am I right? So sometimes when we talk about training, education, right? Training is actually an investment. When you train your worker, that means you are actually investing in your business. Indirectly, the trained person will actually do a far better job. And the training cost is lesser compared to the fine that we pay, the reputation we're going to lose, the delay that we're going to have in terms of your project, right? So when we talk about project design, one of the design that you need to look into is identifying the needs for your safety training, right? It's not just put a presentation and say, this is what safety. Now, your project has so many phases, am I right? And each and every phase, you have a different type of issue. So you need to make sure that, right, when we talk about any beginning of the project, so what is important? I'm hiring worker. So for hiring worker, what are the safety that I need to look into? That is one part. After hiring them, I'm talking about sending them off, right? And segregating them for different area to work, right? And different area, the key person must know what is the safety requirement of that area. It's not just how to run the project. So that means safety must be put under, right, as a built-in safety, built-in quality. That's very important. Yeah. Okay. So far, any questions, you guys? Okay so far? You guys okay? Yeah. All right. So let's look into next is the strategy, right? Investment in construction. Now, project lives, right? Every worker deserves to go home safe. Am I right? That's what safety requirement. You come to work, go back safe. Yeah. Now, the cost, prevention, right? is far cheaper than respond to an incident. What is prevention? Educate them. Provide them with the knowledge of safety, right? And of course, we want the project to complete on time, right? It doesn't mean we take care of safety, but relax in delivery. No, delivery should be there, but safety is priority. As I've mentioned, the hierarchy requirement, right? If, let's say, you want to start your project, what is important? First thing is you need to get, let's say, raw material, for example. Now, there are raw material which is cheaper and also medium price, also expensive. Is it correct? Now, you need to look into the material that you're buying. If, let's say, that material can cause impact to, let's say, a neighbor, right, or other nearby villages, for example, in your project, right, might as well go for a little bit higher material price, which is lesser impact to the environment, right, which we call that as an elimination. Elimination means don't buy the material that's going to impact the environment or human. Go into elimination. Elimination means what? Don't buy. Now, you already buy, am I right? What to do with that now? We call substitution. Is that correct? Yes, right? Substitution. Whether can it be, right, move into some other area and can be, right, use some other material or even machinery or whatever that you already buy. Now, third, once you already have it, third, we call what? Engineering control. Am I right? Engineering control means we call isolation. Like for example, in your construction industry, sometimes you will use genset. Is it correct? The genset. Is the genset noise is high? Generator set, right? Is it very high noise? You cannot put nearby. Am I right? Because you're supplying electricity for maybe some of the special project. No electric supply there. You may use genset. Do you think genset is a noise? Right? Is it a noise pollution? Do you need to wear any earplug? Depending on how many decibel. Is that correct? If let's say any decibel is more than how many? 85, let's say 83, 85. You need to wear earplug. Am I right? Now, if your noise is 135 here, right? You have to wear muff, right? Within that. If anything more than 130 or 35, you need to put a double protection. Is that correct? Yeah. What is double protection? You have to use an earplug, also a muff. That is called double protection. So when we talk about isolation is we try to put that noisy machinery a different far, and where the noise is not near to the workplace, we call isolation or we call engineering control. Now, the fourth is administrative, right? What is administrative? Signboards, yes. Work instruction, operational control. Am I right? This is what we call administration. The last part is only we call PPE. But in general, in any project, immediately we issue PPE first. Am I right? PPE is supposed to be the last resort. But this project been running many years. So that means when you use PPE, it's acceptable because it's already proven that for that you need a PPE. After you issue PPE, you need to make sure that you have an administrative control. Is it important? Right? What is administrative control? Managers, which is whenever any worker moving into a construction area, do they need to wear a helmet? That is one of the PPE. We talk about helmet. Now, the helmet safety, is it important? Now, the helmet safety is, what is the helmet safety? Does the helmet has any expiry date? What is the expiry date? How long is that? From the manufacturing date. You can see inside the helmet. Am I right? That is the manufacturing date. How many years is the expiry date? Yeah. 3 years? Yeah, average, right? Normally 3 years, right? After 3 years, that helmet needs to be replaced. And when you go back, let's check. When was last we issued the helmet and how many years they've been using? Do you think that is actually risky? Yeah. One helmet has an expiry date. Number two, I've seen in most helmets, they write their name or department using a marker pen. Permanent marker pen, right? This is whiteboard, right? The permanent marker pen or whiteboard is actually has a chemical where this chemical will damage your strength of your helmet. Do you know that? You write there the name because why? We want to issue to that person. We write using a marker pen, and that actually impacts the strength of your helmet. If anything fell, the helmet will crack, break, and damage, injure the person, right? So this is proven because why? The chemical here is actually can damage the plastic, which is the helmet strength is actually will be damaged. So what is the best way? Write in a label, correct? And then stick the label. So the marker is not touched directly on the helmet, right? Have you experienced the helmet that you're using with labels? Are you writing with a marker pen? Anyone? Do you have an experience on that? It's okay. We are not going to take any action on that. This is training. How about? Have you seen that? Right? Any others? Have you seen? Yeah, it's common. Am I right? This is common. Yeah. And I also learned after, right? We have experienced some incident, right? So similar, right? So that means when we talk about safety, we need to understand, right? The material can be, right? Can be compromised because of the marker pen ink, right? So you learned something today. Going back, right? Maybe you will remove that, and then maybe you have to put it a label with maybe print that. Say that this is for you, right? And this is your name. No more marker pen. That is also an hazard, right? And impact the safety. Yeah. Now, so save cost means actually, right? Prevention is far cheaper. So what is prevention? Prevention means, you're attending a lot of training, and then you're also attending some seminars. Am I right? And sometimes you also visit your another subsidiary. Is it correct? And wherever you go, you will learn something from them, right? And what you learned, you benchmark, go back, and improve. Yeah, that's important. So when you do that, do you think you can prevent something now? Right? Prevent from the helmet get damaged. Right? And as I said, sometimes when we go for audit, site audit, and they will say, no, this safety shoe, no expiry date. Just imagine anything manufactured on expiry date. And shoe, if long time you never wear any of the shoe, right? It brittle, right? And it easily damage, right? And sometimes they don't use the safety shoe, right? And after a long time they wear, you can see that it actually sold, right? It's actually break away. And sometimes the rubber, it's actually brittle and breaks, right? So similarly, if let's say you don't use, it damage, and when you overuse, also damage. Am I right? So there is an expiry date. And during audit, safety audit, we always check any PPE you're using, every PPE that is an expiry date, right? And the PPE, usage of PPE is very important. Now, let's say you have given an earplug, right? How do you wear your earplug? Can anyone help me? How do you wear your earplug? Earplugs? You have a, right? Then you insert. Am I right? What is the right way of inserting? Can anyone tell me? Okay? Yeah. So how do you insert it? Safety, right? In terms of safety insertion, how do you insert your